Okay, so think back with me for a sec. Early 90s, maybe you're flipping channels, MTV's on, and bam, this sound hits you.
Yeah.
It's raw, like really unfiltered guitars, kind of gritty. It just felt different.
Totally different. Not like the polished stuff that was dominating before.
Exactly. It felt like it was speaking to, I don't know, this restlessness. That's kind of the vibe of a 90s alternative rock we're digging into.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you were curious about why it still sticks around, why it resonates. So we dug into this source, Flannel, Feedback and Angst.
Great title, by the way.
Isn't it? Yeah, we're going to try and really get into the guts of that era. We'll talk about, the world back then.
Backdraft.
The bands, obviously. Some surprising little details, too, and maybe some ways to kind of reconnect with it all.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like you said, the backdrop, the source material really emphasizes that this music didn't just appear out of nowhere.
Right.
You had the early 90s. I mean, so much going on globally. The Berlin Wall had just come down.
Huge geopolitical shift.
Right. The Gulf War, the internet kind of starting to make noise. It felt like old ways were falling apart, maybe.
Yeah, like things were uncertain, but maybe also opening up.
Exactly. A lot of uncertainty, but potential too. And that whole feeling, that sort of ambiguity really fed into the rise of alternative rock.
Absolutely. And it wasn't like cooked up in some record company lab.
Totally.
It was this, real grassroots thing, starting small local scenes.
Prologue Radio was huge.
Oh, massive. And just like friends telling friends, you got to hear this band, felt way more real than some big ad campaign.
Definitely. That authenticity was key.
And then, boom, Nirvana.
Yeah.
Smells like Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
Just detonated.
It really did. Suddenly this underground sound was just everywhere.
And Kurt Cobain, it seemed like he almost stumbled into being the voice for like a whole generation trying to figure stuff out, reluctantly maybe.
That reluctance is such a big part of it, I think. It ties into that whole anti-establishment vibe,
Yep.
Like the source talks about this desire for something that wasn't slick or corporate. People were hungry for something real, even if it was messy.
Flaws and all.
Exactly. And once Nirvana kind of kicked the door down, wow, this wave of bands came through and really cemented that sound.
Oh, yeah. You had Pearl Jam, just huge, anthemic.
Vader's voice, yeah. And Soundgarden, heavier, more complex, maybe. Chris Cornell, what a singer.
Incredible range. And Alice in Chains, too, going into some pretty dark places, intense stuff.
Really intense. But what's cool, and the source points this out too, is how alternative became this really wide umbrella.
Right. It wasn't just grunge.
Not at all. You had bands like Radiohead getting really experimental, atmospheric.
Almost cinematic sounds later on.
Yeah. And R.E.M. had been around, but they fit right in with their, distinct sound, those thoughtful lyrics.
Jangly guitars. And Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan building these massive walls of sound.
Huge layered rock, almost orchestral, like you said.
And then there was Lollapalooza. That felt like a big deal.
Oh, definitely. Lollapalooza was like this traveling validation, wasn't it? Bringing all these different flavors of alternative together.
Yeah, like a statement, this is happening, this is a movement.
Exactly. It wasn't just the music, it was the whole culture around it.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the people, right? The figures at the center.
Yeah, these iconic frontmen.
You had Kurt Cobain, obviously, with that raw nerve honesty. Eddie Vedder's intensity on stage.
Broadly captivating.
Chris Cornell's power. Tom York with that kind of ethereal, haunting thing he does.
Yeah. They connected so deeply, I think, because you felt their struggles were real. It resonated.
Absolutely. Their personal stories definitely seem to mirror what a lot of listeners were feeling.
And talking about key figures, Kurt Cobain's death in '94, man, that just felt heavy.
Oh, huge. A real gut punch. Like you said, it wasn't just losing a musician, it felt like a turning point for that whole initial grunge wave.
Yeah, like the end of a chapter maybe forced some kind of reflection.
It did.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is how the genre didn't just vanish.
Yeah.
It evolved.
Right.
And the source highlights Radiohead's OK Computer in '97 as a big moment there.
Oh, absolutely. That album felt like something else entirely.
Yeah. It brought in electronics, more complex song structures. It showed that alternative rock wasn't just one thing. It could grow, it could innovate.
Okay, so speaking of surprising things, get this detail from the source material. Never mind. Nirvana's huge album.
The one that changed everything.
Recorded for $65,000. $65K.
Wow. That's peanuts, relatively speaking.
Right. And then it sells what? Over 30 million copies? That's just Mind-blowing.
It really highlights that DIY music-first spirit we talk about. Not about huge budgets, just capturing that energy.
Totally. And another fun one from the source, the flannel shirts.
Ah, yes, the uniform.
The iconic grunge look, right?
Yeah.
Symbol of rebellion, whatever. But the source points out it was also just practical.
Cold and rainy in Seattle.
Pretty much. It wasn't some grand fashion statement initially, anyway. It was just about staying warm. It kind of grounds the whole thing, you know?
Yeah, those little details add a lot of texture. Takes away some of the mythologizing, maybe.
Right. So, okay, if someone's listening and feeling nostalgic, or maybe they missed it and want to, like, dive in now, what can they actually do?
Well, the source gives some good pointers. First off, you got to listen to the key albums, right?
Absolutely essential. Never mind, obviously. Pearl Jam's 10.
Huge. And maybe Radiohead's The Bends as well to get that evolution.
Good call. Those are like the core curriculum.
Yeah. And, if you want that live feel, checking out tribute bands can actually be pretty fun.
Yeah. Get the energy, hear the songs loud.
Exactly. It's a way to experience it live, sort of.
And for the backstory, documentaries are great. Hype is a classic for the Seattle scene.
Oh, yeah. Hype is essential viewing. And Pearl Jam 20 gives you that inside look at their whole journey.
Good recommendations. What about, like, the look?
Huh. Well, you could hit up a thrift store.
Flannel and ripped jeans.
Why not? It's comfy. And weirdly, kind of back in style in some ways.
True. And maybe the easiest thing, just make a killer playlist, right? Your own personal 90s alt-rock mix.
Definitely. Curate your own angst.
Ah, love it. Okay, stepping it up a bit.
Hmm.
Any slates more out there ideas?
Well, if you're feeling social, maybe throw a 90s party.
Oh man, full-on theme night. Music, fashion. Could be fun.
Could be. Or, hey, if you've ever wanted to play guitar.
Learn some riffs.
Yeah, tackling some of those iconic 90s riffs.
Yeah.
That's a pretty direct way to connect with the music itself. Feel it under your fingers.
That's a cool idea. So when we boil it all down, what the source really drives home is that this wasn't just music.
No, much more than that. It was a cultural moment, wasn't it?
Definitely. It gave a voice to, well, a generation, right? Trying to deal with a world that felt like it was shifting under their feet, looking for something authentic, unfiltered.
That authenticity is the key word, I think.
Yeah, and that's why it lasts, right? That raw feeling, the genuine emotion. It captured something about that specific time, the anxieties, the spirit.
And those lyrics, often so personal, so poignant. And the riffs, unforgettable riffs, they still hit home because they tapped into something real, something that still resonates.
So true.
So wrapping up this deep dive into 90s alternative, hopefully this gave everyone listening a good feel for how it started, the impact it had, and why it's still relevant.
Yeah, definitely encourage you to keep digging. There's so much there.
Absolutely. So much great music to explore.
And maybe just a final thought to leave folks with. What's going on now? What sounds, what movements are bubbling up today that feel alternative?
Good question.
The stuff on the fringes now.
Yeah.
What might be the thing people look back on in 20, 30 years? What mark will they leave?